since we are the final determinants of the budget for all the arms and sectors in the country, I had to quickly respond. And my letter is dated today, 6th March 2021, to the Secretary to the President, Office of the President, Jubilee House. Attention, Nana Bediatu Asante. Yes, sir. Read recommendations of government on the 2021 proposed estimates of expenditure for Parliament, the Parliamentary Service, the Judiciary, and the Judicial Service. Please refer to your letters dated 11th March 2021 with reference numbers 0PS/350/21/247 and 0PS/260/21/248, in which we sought to communicate to Parliament through the Speaker the recommendation of the President on the 2021 proposed estimates of expenditure for Parliament, the Parliamentary Service, the Judiciary, and the Judicial Service. Respectfully, as Speaker of Parliament, I am unable to accept the letters and communicate same to the Honorable House, as the wording and import of your letters do not communicate a recommendation as stipulated by Articles 127 and 179 of the 1999 Constitution and Section 15A of the Parliamentary Service Act 1993 at 460, but an imperative to Parliament to keep within the expenditure estimates which have been set by government. Indeed, the provisions of the Constitution and statute referred to above require the President to lay the estimates of Parliament and the Judiciary before Parliament, quote, without revision to the estimates, but with, quote, recommendations that the President may make on them, unquote. I note, however, that in the budget statement and the expenditure estimates laid on Friday, the 12th of March 2021, the, quote, recommendation of the President were laid instead of the original estimate that was submitted by Parliament and the Judiciary. Consequently, I return the attached letters for the consideration of Mr. President in the light of the above. Accept, sir, the assurances of my highest esteem, yours in the service of Ghana, signed, Right Honorable Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagbin, Speaker of Parliament. It is for Parliament to determine the budgets. It's not for the executive. We have the final power to approve or disapprove. And so what the Constitution has done is for them to make recommendations and to negotiate during the deliberations of the budget before the House. It is not for the executive to impose ceilings on the judiciary or Parliament. We have to do the proper thing. And so during the consideration of the estimates, honorable members, particularly the committees concerned, take that on board. At the end of the day, come and inform us as to the negotiated figure, not the ceiling that has been given by the President. That is not the intent of the 1992 Constitution. If you do otherwise, I, as your Speaker, will not append any letter or submission to the President for his assent. I mean what I say. The weakest link in our democracy is Parliament. And because of that, we are not able to control things like corruption, We are not able to hold the executive to account. We are not able to get the rule of law going. We are the arm to leave that. And so far as I remember the Speaker of this House, I will insist that the right thing be done. Honorable members, there is a second communication from the President, dated 16th March 2021. It says, Mr. Speaker, absence from Ghana. In accordance with Article 59 of the Constitution, I write to inform you that in my capacity as chairperson of the Authority of Heads of State and Government of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, as well as the President of the Republic, I will be traveling outside the country in the afternoon of Tuesday, 16th March 2021, to attend the funeral of the late Prime Minister of the Government of the Republic of Cote d'Ivoire, His Excellency Ahmed Bakayoko, to be held on Wednesday, 17th March 2021 in Abidjan. I will return to Ghana in the afternoon of the same day. During my absence, the Vice President, Raji Dr. Mahmoudou Bawumia, shall, in accordance with Article 68 of the Constitution, act in my stead. Accept, Mr. Speaker, the assurances of my highest consideration. Yours sincerely, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. To the Right Honorable Speaker, Office of Parliament, Parliament House, Accra. We now move to collection of votes and proceedings and official report. We start with the collection of votes and proceedings of Friday, 12 March 2021. Page 1. Page 2. Page 3. Page 4. Page 5. Page 6. Page 7. Yes, honorable member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, page 7, number 236 is Seydou Issoufou. My first name is Seydou, and the surname is Issoufou. Besides that, I'm also, I have two titles to add to this name, Alhaji and Baba. The Baba means father in my tradition. I was named after my grandfather. So at home, they call me Baba Seydou. So with your permission, I want my name to read, with your permission, I want my name to read Baba Seydou Issoufou. With your permission, Mr. Speaker.
Baba is not a title. Baba is a name. The title Alhaji I will accept. But the title Baba I will not accept.
I'm guarded, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Deputy Majority Leader, yes.
Mr. Speaker, perhaps if honorable member could help us with the name he used in filing, because I believe Electoral Commission communicated to the House, and that was captured in the list when we first met before the swearing. So, if you may assist us.
Yes, honorable member, can you assist the House?
Mr. Speaker, I filed with the name Isifu as my surname and Seidu as my first name. But popularly and at home, because I was named after, because, Mr. Speaker, because I was named after, in my tradition at home, the Baba means father. The Baba means father. So it is not a name. Depending on where you come from, it is not a name. So I am Alhaji Baba Seidu Isifu. Thank you.
The identity of Isifu Seidu is not the same as the identity of Baba Seidu Isifu. There are two identities, and you voluntarily opted to be identified through the Electoral Commission as Baba Isifu. You didn't even add the Alhaji. Now you want us to add, you know the proper thing to do. The lawyers are here, they could assist you for a fee. Yes, please.
Mr. Speaker, so we cannot accept the Alhaji because when he was filing, he didn't add it, and the Electoral Commission communicated Mr. to this House. So, Mr. Speaker, he may be leading this House into temptation by giving him a new title. So I agree with you, Mr. Speaker, he may have to go and depose to an affidavit and get the proper thing served on the House through the clerk than using the back door for new titles and all that. It's unacceptable, Mr. Speaker, and our friend, I'm sure, my colleague will be guided accordingly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm guided. Thank you.
Name on the rate of election. We are even going to be hard. This is Seidu, and then this is you, and then you sign against it. You didn't add a Baba.
Oh, that's wrong. It was the same name Isifu.
The surname is
Isifu. And the first. Well, what I'll call on the table office to do is to take on board the fact that your surname is Isifu and your first name is Seidu. And so that will be corrected. So you now belong to the I column, not the S column. So table office kindly take note. Page 8. Yes, Honorable Samson Ahi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, page 8, number 4 and 7. Honorable Labi Oscar Foria Wing, Honorable Tevia Augustine, Dr. Bia West. Mr. Speaker, both of them sought permission to be absent from Parliament, but they have been marked absent. If the table office can make that correction. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, table office, they are absent with permission, not just absent. Yes.
Mr. Speaker, at page 8, item 4, and item 4.3, my name appears among those who were absent, but I was in the House on Friday.
Able office, he was present. He wasn't absent. Take note. Yes, Honorable.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, item number 4, number 6, Opoku Davis answer in Priso. I was present, but I'm marked absent here.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Item number 4, number 6, Opoku Davis answer on page 8 in Priso. I was present, but my name appears here as absent.
Number 6 under item 4.
Yes, please.
The honorable member for Impriso was present. Please take note.
Thank you very much.
Page 9. Page 10. Page 11. Yes, Honorable Deputy Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, item 6. I humbly hold the view that we should include order 161, and 2 as instead of only order 56.1 with respect, sir.
They should include order
161 and 2.
Yes, table office, take note. But I even think that the word should be presented, not made a statement. You presented the business committee report, or you made a statement after that.
Mr. Speaker, the terms of the statement made reference to order 161, 1 and 2.
Yes, I've taken note of that one.
It is so.
But I said the word they even used there, made a statement on the business arranged.
Not presented.
Yes.
Presented.
So I said I should correct it to presented.
Very well. Mr. Speaker, you're right. Presented.
Able office, kindly take note. Yes, still at page 11.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I'm still using my maiden name, so my name should really be Mavis and Cancer Boyd. The message shouldn't be part of it. Thank you. I'm not using my husband's name as well.
Sorry, I haven't gotten your intervention. You said what?
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I'm still using my maiden name, so then in Cancer Boyd it shouldn't refer to as Mrs. I'm not using my husband's name as of now. Page 11.
Page 11, number?
XXVII.
SSVII.
Yes, please.
Mavis in Cancer Boyd, Mrs.
Yes, the message shouldn't be part of it.
The message should not be part.
No, that's my father's name.
You have not yet done the proper thing.
Not yet, Right Honorable.
Table office. Table office, please don't be in a hurry. She will come properly. Yes, Majority Leader.
Well, Speaker, I don't know whether if a lady after marriage decides to keep the maiden name, whether the person is not entitled to do so. So when you say that you have not done the proper thing, it would seem to suggest that if one does not use the title Mrs., then the proper thing has not been done. I would.
No, the proper thing is to take the decision. the proper thing is to take the decision. Do you want to be known and identified as married to so and so, or you don't want to? So that decision is what she says she has not yet taken. So I said, well, then you've not taken the proper decision, that's why. But majority leader, you are entitled to litigate my view.
Mr. Speaker, we shall reserve that to another time. But the issue that was raised by my colleague, the deputy leader, the deputy majority leader, is I think I've raised this matter before during the speakership of Mrs. Admin Balfour. The first one is 56.1. The language there is that the chairman of the business committee shall make a statement. He shall make a statement. So maybe if you want to be, if you want to align with what you're saying, then perhaps you may have to change that word there, that the chairman of the committee shall present a statement. Now what is there in the document is that he shall make a statement. That is 56.1. But the Speaker, the other one...
Majority leader, don't move. This one is referring to the chairman of the business committee. But he presented as the vice chairman, not the chairman. And it's captured there, the Honorable Deputy Majority Leader and vice chairman of the business committee. So what he did was to present it on behalf of the chairman. That's why I opted for the word present. But in the standing orders, if you were the one presenting, it's me. You are right.
Mr. Speaker, again, I will not want to litigate this matter. Because any member of a committee can, in the absence of the chairman, do what is required of the chairman. And so what the chairman is supposed to do, that person can do. If the chairman makes a statement, the member can also make a statement. But as I'm saying, I will not litigate the matter with the Speaker. The Speaker, the other major thing that I wanted to raise is in respect of the 1612. As I said, I raised this matter with Mrs. Admin Joyce, Jocelyn Mafrado, when she was the Speaker. After the statement has been made, and maybe the House accepts it, should the presenter go ahead to make a motion for its acceptance or adoption? We usually don't do that. So after the issues have been raised, the Speaker then would say, by hitting the gavel, that the business statement has been adopted. But in truth, if we want to be technical, then after the presentation, 1612, going further downstream, would suggest that after the report has been presented to the House, then the chairman has to come with a motion. But we don't normally do that. I think the practice has always been that after the issues have been raised and responded to, the Speaker then would say that the business statement has been approved by the House. So it's something that perhaps going forward we may have to ponder over.
Yes, Minority Leader.
Now, Speaker, I do not intend to encourage a litigation on this matter. I know that Order 1601 establishes the business committee, and I further note that, Mr. Speaker, in 1612, as the Honorable Deputy Leader referred to, it reads, and I quote, "At any time after the report has been presented to the House, a motion may be moved by the chairman of the committee for the acceptance of the report." The Speaker, expresso unius rule. In express words, this is the intendment of the standing orders. But by practice, it has always been that when the chairman of the business committee presents a report and you accommodate the concerns and inputs of members, your guidance has always been that the House has approved of the business statement. I think by practice we have grown to appreciate that. But if the leader wants us to be meticulous, religious, then going on into the future, after the business statement, we'll ask him to invoke Order 1612, that he counts by motion. But it's never been the practice of this House to accept the business statement by motion. But, Mr. Speaker, he's no longer. If we want to respect the express provisions of our standing orders in Order 1612, then we ought to adopt the business statement and his report by motion. But I think that what our practice have yielded have helped us in the conduct of our business, and he should not insist on 1612. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, the practice is also in accordance with the standing orders of the House, because it says may, and so if you opt not to move the motion, it doesn't mean it cannot be adopted. But we could go further to decide that we will always move, because it's discretionary. And so if that's what we want to do, there's nothing wrong with that. After giving explanations, the leader and chairman of the business committee could always proceed to move, and then we can adopt the report. Please, can we move on? Page 12. Page 13. Page 14. Yes,
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, please, I try to catch your eye at page 10, page 13. The list of directives you issued on that day, conspicuously missing, Mr. Speaker, is the directive to the President through the Minister of State responsible for finance, and I recall you even added His Excellency the Vice President, raising concern about the unacceptable ceiling for the legislature and the judiciary. I recall, Mr. Speaker, that you stressed that directive, and I'm sure that that is what subsequently led to some of the letters that you have read to us today. But all of that, Mr. Speaker, is omitted at page 13. I know the official report will capture in detail what you said, but at least we should get a sense, Mr. Speaker, from the votes and proceedings, just as it has been captured, the directives you made about the independent governance institutions and then the referral to the Finance Committee. I thought that we should have found space as well in the votes and proceedings to capture the essence of that very important directive that you gave, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Member. That is the lot of Parliament. The Parliament prefers to grumble and complain in silence, not to openly come and confront the issues. And so even the table office did not place much premium to the directive I gave, even though that is a budget that affects they themselves. And we have been at the receiving end of not properly, effectively and efficiently performing our constitutional duties. I have opted to be open and to be proactive, and that is what I opted to do. So please, table office, capture it properly. That was a directive from the chair. Yes, now your titles are many. I don't know which one to always refer to. Majority Leader, Leader of the House, Minister for Parliamentary Affairs, and Minister responsible for the Ministry of Finance. Yes, sir.
Speaker, I am told that related to a communication to you, and that had to do with the allocation to Parliament. Now, we are being told that it was a directive. So, in that regard, the directive was to who? And what was the essence of that directive? What directive did you issue? I want to be very clear.
I think you were too busy that day, so you didn't capture the essence of that directive. But I will allow the honourable member to explain it further. Yes, please.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, as you have rightly said, the Honourable Majority Leader and Minister of State responsible for finance that day was in another world, Mr. Speaker, and he really looked like the finance minister we have never had. And I think the quality of the leather bag that he showed us that day was very impressive. And the Honorable Kenu Boyata, I'm sure, will be hurrying back. But the directive from the Right Honourable Speaker was clear that the budget reveals substantive cuts in the ceiling for Parliament and for the judiciary, and that word should go to the executive that we will not accept it. Because we are not and that we cannot be treated like ministries, departments, and agencies. We are organs of state, arms of government. And the Speaker was very clear that you should convey, and His Excellency the Vice President should also take note, since he was in the House that day. So that was the directive that Mr. Speaker issued. But I can understand that our leader had abandoned us. He was ensconced in the executive, Mr. Speaker, so he didn't join us to solidarize with our plight.
Yes, Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I share the principle espoused. I really share the principle. But the language that's being used here is that a directive was issued. That's what I'm asking. Is it, properly speaking, a directive to who? It came from the President. So is it the case that the Speaker was directing the President? That is the issue that I want us to be clear about. Because, you may create a problem if you are saying that the Speaker sits and directs the President to do something or the other. I mean, that's the issue. But I think that it is a good observation, and the Speaker and I even discussed it ahead of time. But to say that a directive was issued, that is where I had my difficulty.
Well, yes, Speaker, it was a directive to convey the message. A directive to you to convey the message to His Excellency the President. Since per the constitutional imperative, you read the budget on behalf of the President. Yes, so to be clear.
Mr. Speaker, I believe what we all should be guided is that the Honorable Chairman on that particular day invoked Article 179, and therefore whatever directives you are given must be situated in context he was not presenting the budget as Minister for Parliamentary Affairs, but he was doing so for and on behalf of His Excellency the President. So whatever consequential observation and directives that you gave, Mr. Speaker, must be respected. But I thought, Mr. Speaker, today you have elevated the same matter to even a high level with your correspondence to the office of the President. And Mr. Speaker, without attempting to repeat your words, may I refer you to an article which emphasizes the position that you took. Article 1793, and for my purpose, I will emphasize 1793 and 5. For instance, when you related to the budget for Parliament and the judiciary, this is what the Constitution provides in 1793. The Chief Justice shall, in consultation with the Judicial Council, cause to be submitted to the President at least 2 months before the end of each financial year and thereafter, as and when the need arises. But Mr. Speaker, significant as we observe in 1795, these words are significant, which guided the position you took. The estimate shall be laid before Parliament under clause 4 by the President without revision, but with any recommendations that the government may have on them. So you elevated it to another level, and you did so even in respect of Parliament as an institution in accordance with the Parliament, the Act of Parliament, which deals with the votes for Parliament itself. Thank you.
Honorable members, is this open to litigation? Yes, Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, see, we want the right thing to be done and be done for both Parliament and the judiciary. And we could take the matter up. Mr. Speaker, it is not for nothing. My colleague is reading Article 179. We should start from 1791. 1791 provides that the President shall cause to be prepared and laid before Parliament at least 1 month. At least 1 month before the end of the financial year. Now, what you read says 2 months. What it means is that at least a month before it comes here, this thing should be done. So that if there's any negotiations, it could be done before it comes here, when it is finalized. In this particular instance, we all know that we didn't have time. Notwithstanding, Mr. Speaker, I still think that it should be possible for us to resolve this matter and see that the appropriate thing is done. Even if it has to be, what is going to come to Parliament has to be topped up in the media review, that could be done. But, Mr. Speaker, I'm not too sure that on account of this, one will want to litigate the matter. Because the issue then is, when did Parliament submit its own request? But I don't think this should be a matter for litigation. We want the best for Parliament, and I believe, given your own experience, we can achieve that. But we cannot start on a quarrelsome note. I don't think that is appropriate. Yes, thank you.
Honorable members, I was chairman of the Committee on Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs 1997 to 2000. 2001 January. And then again 2014 to 2017 January. 1997 to 2001, actually, my ranking member was His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. We worked together and fought for the observance of these constitutional provisions. Luckily, we are now in the position to make sure that it's complied with. At that time, we were just members of Parliament, chairman and ranking. and so our voices did not carry much weight. Now we are in the position to ensure that we all comply with the Constitution. And I, as the Right Honourable Speaker, will ensure that the right thing is done. Once the principle is accepted, let's move on. I'm sure His Excellency will readily comply with it. So please, let's move on with the correction of votes and proceedings. Page 12.
Mr. Speaker, you go to page 14.
Page 14.
Yes, where Dr.
Thank you.
Zanato's name,
Thank you. Page 14.
Dr. Zanato's title has changed to Mr.
Page 15.
Mr. Speaker, there's a correction to be made.
Page 14.
It is so.
Yes.
Dr. Zanato is there as Mr.
Table office. Please. Table office. That is my daughter. That's not my son. Dr. Zanato Ajimarolis. Please try to take note. Page 15. Honorable members, the votes and proceedings of the 22nd sitting of the first meeting of the first session held on Friday, 12 March 2021 as corrected are adopted as the true records of proceedings. I have official report dated Wednesday, 3rd February 2021. Any corrections to the official report? Honorable members, in the absence, yes, Honorable.
Right, Honourable Speaker, one correction at column 007, the second paragraph. The sixth line should be cocoa board, and we delete the board after cocoa board. It's tautological, so if cocoa board will suffice, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable member, you are right. Honorable members, the official report of Wednesday, 3rd February 2021, as corrected, represent the true record of proceedings. Even though I admitted a lot of statements, I've been guided by leadership to rather allow those statements to be made tomorrow and not today. So we'll move to, at the commencement of public business, item 5, motion that this Honourable House approves the budget statement and economic policy of the government for the year ending 31st December 2021. This was moved on Friday by the Minister of State responsible for the Ministry of Finance. Commencement of debate. I have two lists, one from each side of the House. I will start from the minority side and call on the ranking member, the Committee on Finance, Well, the other paper says moved. Now, the presentation has been made by the Minister responsible for finance. Once the motion has been moved, I'm looking for somebody to second it. And I thought ranking member was going to second, but I'm told that somebody from the majority will have to second it. Yes, and the list I have here is the Honorable Minister for Information, Honorable Kojo Oppong Nkrumah.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion that this Honorable House approves the budget statement and economic policy of the government for the year ending 31st December 2021. Mr. Speaker, I want to start by congratulating the Majority Leader and for the time being the Minister of State in charge.
Honourable Member, we've agreed on some time limits. I just want to draw attention. We finally agreed on 25 minutes. 25 minutes. The seconder, 25 minutes. The ranking member, 25 minutes. The chair and ranking, 15 minutes of the committees. And then my colleagues, the backbenchers, 10 minutes each. And we agreed that we will debate till 9 p.m. We want members to do a good job. If the 9 is too much, at least Mr. Speaker will get the sense of the House and then we'll take the decision. Please, you have 25 minutes starting from now. Honorable, you have 25 minutes starting from now.
Thank you once again, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion that this Honourable House approves the budget statement and economic policy of the government for the year ending 31st December 2021. Mr. Speaker, as I was intimating earlier, I'd like to start by congratulating the Majority Leader and for the time being the Minister of State in charge or responsible for finance for delivering the President's budget with such command on that memorable day. Our only prayer is that now that he's in charge, Parliament is duly taken care of, as you've been speaking about, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the 2021 budget was themed Woya Wohie, a Ga expression meaning we are moving forward. So, Mr. Speaker, as we start our debate this afternoon, it will be important to note where we are coming from collectively, where we are going collectively, and that which we ought to do to get us there collectively. And Mr. Speaker, I say collectively because very often when it comes to budget debates, the majority side sees everything right with the economy and the budget, and you'll find the minority side seeing everything wrong with the economy and the budget. But Mr. Speaker, if I may quote from His Excellency the President's State of the Nation address as delivered on Tuesday the 9th of March 2020, page 2, paragraph 3. He says, "This is what the Ghanaian people demand from us." And he was referring to collaboration between the majority and the minority. He says, "This is what the Ghanaian people demand from us. by insisting on virtual parity in the House between the two major parties of our country, the realization of the Ghana project and not the attainment of narrow partisan interests. This must be the guiding principle of the business to be conducted in the House. Mr. Speaker, if I refer you to paragraph 1144 of the budget statement itself, there's a statement made by the Minister responsible for finance that says, while we debate and we may disagree on issues, we should always be united on the broad goal of advancing the welfare and progress of our people. Principle beyond partisan politics in principle. There is more to us than we have so far realized. And then he goes on with a quotation asking us to work together. So, Mr. Speaker, as we start this debate, my prayer is that the common Ghanaian interest is to guide the submissions that we make. Mr. Speaker, today we are debating the principles of the budget, not even the estimates per se. We are debating the consonance between the policy objectives as outlined in the budget statement and economic policy and national imperatives like the Constitution, like the Coordinated Program of Economic and Social Development Policies, etc. Mr. Speaker, in so doing, I will be speaking to just 5 issues. First, a recap of how Ghana has made progress so far. Second, a recap of what has challenged our progress. Third, the need to recover, to transform, and to fulfill the aspirations of our people. I'll speak fourthly about the Ghana Cares of Batampa program, and then finally the future of what we can achieve working together collectively. Mr. Speaker, if you look at Chapter 6 of the Constitution 1992, Article 36, Clause 1, with your permission, if I quote, the state shall take all necessary action to ensure that the national economy is managed in such a manner as to maximize the rate of economic development and to secure the maximum welfare, freedom, and happiness of every person in Ghana, and to provide adequate means of livelihood and suitable employment and public assistance to the needy. Mr. Speaker, a cursory look at some of the benchmarks of our economic progress over the years shows that we have been responding to this imperative. If you take growth, one of the major measures of how our economy is picking up, we have moved from about 3.4 in 2016 to about 7.9 as at the end of 2019. In fact, non-oil GDP growth moved from 4.6 in 2016 to 5.8 at the end of 2019. If you take inflation, Mr. Speaker, we have successfully, as a country, brought down inflation from about 15.4% in 2016 down to NDS 7.9 in 2019. The monetary policy rate by the Bank of Ghana dropped 25.5% in 2016 down to 16.0 at the end of 2019. Budget deficits brought down to about 4.8 in 2019. Primary balance from negative 1.1 moved to positive 0.8 between 2016 and 2019. So, Mr. Speaker, on the face of the data sets, the evidence is clear that we have been making progress as a country. Mr. Speaker, this progress is due to 3 major factors. 1, the economic leadership provided by the executive branch of government. 2, the strong checks and balances that this House exacts on the executive. And 3, the hard work of the Ghanaian people. These are the things that have come together to uplift our economy, albeit the few slippages that we have. Mr. Speaker, I know sometimes politicians as we are would like to deny this and question a few. But the progress of Ghana is one that is well known and accepted, whether by the International Monetary Fund, international ratings agencies, or by economists all over.
The first Deputy Speaker to take the chair. Sorry. Please continue.
What we ought to do, Mr. Speaker, is while admitting that generally we have made progress, focus on where our slippages have been and see how to fix it. And that is what brings me to the second item that I want to speak about, Mr. Speaker, our challenges. Article 34(2), and again, because we are dealing with the principles, we are connecting the budget to the imperatives like the Constitution and our medium-term development framework. Article 34(2), Mr. Speaker, says that the President shall report to Parliament at least once a year on steps taken to ensure the realization of the policy objectives contained in this chapter, and in particular, the realization of basic human rights, a healthy economy, Mr. Speaker, a healthy economy. The right to work, right to good health care, and right to education. Mr. Speaker, despite the fact that we have made progress, despite the fact that we have moved forward as a country, we still have some challenges. One of our key challenges being the annual gap between revenues and expenditures, which then translates into year-on-year deficits. Mr. Speaker, this House is well accustomed with the history of how we have brought down deficits and even passed a Fiscal Responsibility Act aimed at ensuring that Ghana, never again should we be on an ordinarily recurring basis go beyond 5% of GDP. Mr. Speaker, another challenge that we've had over the years is our high debt to GDP ratio, which over the years we have tried to bring down. But in 2020, as we are all aware, Mr. Speaker, we were hit by COVID. And COVID, among other things, has exacted a huge burden on our economy. Mr. Speaker, paragraph 72 of the budget speech, I refer to the speech as read by the minister, says, among other things, that the fiscal impact of COVID-19 was 19.7 billion Ghana cedis. If you add that to the cost of the financial sector cleanup of 21 billion Ghana cedis, the cost of the excess capacity charges paid to IPPs of 12 billion Ghana cedis, we're expending some 52.7 billion Ghana cedis, especially at a time when our revenues have gone low. Mr. Speaker, in many parts of the world, as governments have done their best to provide for their citizens in hard times, the time is becoming clear to them that they need to introduce measures to raise revenues to close some of these gaps. In the U.S., for example, having passed a $1.9 trillion support package, President Biden is examining, and it is expected soon will pass, some of the first major tax hikes since 1993 to help the economy close the gap between what they have spent as a result of these challenges and what they ordinarily raise. Mr. Speaker, the reality is that when a nation is at war, citizens have to chip in so that we mobilize resources to win that war. And Mr. Speaker, that brings me to the third matter I would like to speak about, which is recovery, transformation, and the fulfillment of our aspirations. Mr. Speaker, we are at a point in our history where we have no other choice than to engineer a recovery of this economy. This economy that was growing at an average about 6.9 or 7% in the last 3-4 years now came down to about 0.9%, at least in terms of target, in the year 2020. We have no choice than to begin to engineer a recovery of this economy. The government has started its part by introducing a number of measures. First, vaccinating the population, targeting about 20 million people by the end of this year. Why? So that full economic activity can resume and the kind of investment and stimulus into the various sectors can bring back that strong growth that we experienced. Government has also laid out a clear plan to invest in and stimulate some specific sectors. And this is what is captured in what we call the Ghana Cares Obatampa program. Mr. Speaker, I just want to highlight a few of the things that funds are to be invested in this Ghana Cares Obatampa program. Number one, food security. Agric is a major stay of our economy, and we need to continuously support our farmers because, as the numbers have demonstrated in the last 4 years, when we supported our farmers, agric productivity increased, and consequent to that, jobs in that sector as well. Mr. Speaker, under this program, we're expecting to extend support to about 1.5 million farmers, and this includes fertilizers, seeds, extension officers, from the about 1.2 that we believe has been done so far. We also expect to extend support to rice millers and poultry farmers, and also support commercial farming in Ghana. Mr. Speaker, we expect also under this program to provide support for businesses across this country. Already, the NBSSI has provided some about 500 million Ghana cedis in terms of support to various parts of the Ghanaian economy. This needs to be stepped up as we stimulate and invest in more businesses and more sectors of our economy. Mr. Speaker, it is clear that if we do not invest in our healthcare system, one pandemic can literally collapse our entire economy. And so there is the need to invest significantly in the healthcare system. Agenda 111, as the President has been speaking about, is on the cards. Additionally, we want to fast-track digitization and develop engineering, machine tool, and ICT industries. So, Mr. Speaker, the post-COVID economic recovery program is one that first of all requires us to come back from that fiscal deficit of about 11% to 9% this year, 7% in the third year, and back to the fiscal responsible limit of about 5% by the year 2024. Among other things, this post-COVID economic recovery program also focuses on ensuring that we bring back rebounding growth in various sectors of the economy, as I have just outlined. It also seeks to ensure that debt sustainability is brought back, because as we invest in the productive sectors and get the GDP up, we expect that our debt to GDP ratio will come back to the levels where we were before COVID hit us. Right, Honorable Speaker, to do all of these things without worsening our deficit position or our debt position currently, it is important that the administration introduces some revenue measures to support it to do so. I want to quickly refer to Article 36(2)(c) of the Constitution, and with your permission, I'll read as we connect the policy underpinnings to our imperatives. Mr. Speaker, the Constitution says, the state shall, in particular, take all necessary steps to establish a sound and healthy economy whose underlying principles shall include ensuring that individuals and the private sector bear their fair share of social and national responsibilities, including responsibilities to contribute to the overall development of the country. Mr. Speaker, we are at that point where every Ghanaian has to chip in a little so that we're able to recover and fulfill our objectives. In doing so, the administration has introduced two key elements. One, tax compliance element. Mr. Speaker, His Excellency the President told this House that as part of the digitization program, national identification numbers will now double as tax identification numbers. In an instant, the pool of persons who are available to contribute their quota in fulfillment of this constitutional obligation now moves from about 3 million people to about 15 million people. What that means is that the Ghana Revenue Authority is in a position to engage a larger pool and exact what needs to be exacted to fill the treasury so that we can deliver on these things that we speak about. Mr. Speaker, in addition to these, government has also introduced the COVID-19 levy. Government has also signaled that it seeks to adjust road tolls. Government has introduced the sanitation and pollution levy and a 5% profit before tax for the financial sector recovery program. Mr. Speaker, it is our expectation that these are revenue measures that this House will support, because they contribute significantly to ensuring that what appears to be a high revenue target this year can be met, and that revenue coming together with the other resources of the state can now help us, as we mentioned earlier, to recover from the challenges of the pandemic and to invest in the things that will bring about the growth and the jobs and the income that our people look for. Right, Honorable Speaker, this administration, also being a sensitive administration, has not only introduced revenue measures, but has also introduced a number of reliefs aimed at easing the burden on various sectors of the economy. These include, for example, the provision of a rebate of 30% on income tax due for companies in the hotel, restaurant, education, arts and entertainment, travel and tour industries for the second, third and fourth quarters of 2021. And Mr. Speaker, here I make particular mention of the fact that my colleagues in the media who operate in the arts and entertainment industry can look forward to benefiting from these rebates in the year 2021. It is because government is clear in its mind that as the economy contracts and business revenues contract, they that benefit the most from advertising also suffer the lot. And that is why government has introduced these measures. Mr. Speaker, government is also suspending quarterly income tax installment payments for the second, third and fourth quarters of 2021 for small businesses using the income tax stamp system. Government is also suspending the quarterly installment payments of vehicle income tax for the second, third, and fourth quarters of 2021 for trotros and taxis. And finally, government is extending the waiver of interest as incentive for early payment of accumulated tax arrears. Right, Honorable Speaker. So the government is not only introducing measures aimed at raising revenue, it is also introducing measures aimed at easing the burden on various segments of the economy. When we support the government in succeeding in these measures, we expect to be back on track so that some of the key initiatives of this administration, which prior to COP were getting us on track to that promised land, can be funded through throttle and can yield the benefits we are looking for. These include the free senior high school program, which fulfills Articles 25 and 38 of the Constitution, planting for food and jobs, the nation building call, and then the 1B, 1F program. Because we speak industrialization is one of the imperatives that we must focus on in accord with the directive principles of state policy. Mr. Speaker, the Akufo-Addo administration in its first term published the Coordinated Program of Economic and Social Development Policies 2017 to 2024. That program, among other things, holds about 5 major pillars. First being economic development, second being social development, third being environment, infrastructure, and human settlements development, the fourth being a focus on governance, corruption, and public accountability, and the fifth being the strengthening of Ghana's role in international affairs. If you take a look at the 2021 budget statement and economic policy, all of these initiatives or all of these priority areas are attended to in detail with funding allocations even sometimes higher than what had occurred in the previous year. It is because we believe clearly that though it is time to manage expenditure in a manner that does not cause us to exceed our thresholds, these are areas that a lot of attention must be paid to. And that is why you will find resources being invested, as I mentioned earlier, in agriculture to support farmers, resources being invested to support industry, and under industry to ensure that some of the major challenges to industry, including the availability of round-the-clock energy at affordable prices to our people, is attended to. You will find that in this budget, attention is paid to the need to protect the environment and revenue measures introduced to ensure that we raise revenues to protect the environment, to enhance sanitation, and to curb pollution. You will find in this budget that resources are made available to support the roads program and infrastructure, as well as housing. Right, Honorable Speaker, we cannot, as a country, allow the temporary challenges that we face today to hold us back. We need to get our loins and charge forward. We need to bite the bullet, raise some more resources, and invest same in the things that we all aspire to achieve as a country. Because in the last 4 years, it was demonstrably clear that when the government succeeded in raising resources, putting those resources into agriculture, agriculture experienced a rebound. Putting those resources into industry, industry experienced a rebound. Putting those same resources into public sector efficiency, services among other things, experienced a rebound. I want to call on all members of this House that as a government program has been put before us, and as a government request of us to support its revenue measures, we all rally behind the government, pass these revenue measures and approve this budget, raise the resources that are required, and most importantly, Mr. Speaker, ensure that the resources are put to the uses for which they have been advertised. Because, Mr. Speaker, for all of us members of Parliament who demand road projects in our constituencies, if government desires to increase the road tolls marginally, to raise more resources and ensure that our contractors are paid on time so that roads are done, it is something that will benefit our constituents and will benefit us as well. For all of us who complain that the President's promise that Accra should become one of the cleanest cities in Africa within a period of time, that promise has not materialized. I am sure that if we pay a little extra and those funds are put to the proper use, and we're able to make not just Accra, Kumasi, Takra, the Tamale, and other cities the cleanest in West Africa, it will serve our constituents well and serve us well. So, Mr. Speaker, I call on colleagues in this House to support the budget statement and economic policy of government, to approve these measures so that we can mobilize these resources and get back on track as to where Ghana was before we were hit by these challenges. I thank Mr. Speaker for the opportunity.
Honorable Kesel Atoforsen, ranking member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity also to contribute to the debate. Mr. Speaker, in doing so, let me put on record that an effective fiscal consolidation should always and everywhere lead to a reduced public debt to a sustainable level. But sadly, Mr. Speaker, it is only in the case of Ghana that the government claims that they are consolidating the fiscal for 4 years in a row, yet our public debt is increasing at an increasing rate at an unsustainable rate. So, Speaker, this is scary. So, Speaker, again, in the budget statement, references have been made that the government has been undertaking fiscal consolidation since 2017 till the year 2020 when COVID actually arrived. So, Speaker, what I seek to do today is to track the fiscal part and to make a point that Ghana cannot blame COVID entirely as we encounter an economic mess. The Speaker, in fact, the problem indeed started in the year 2018. And no one should make an attempt to blame COVID for the economic mess we are going through. The Speaker, I said this because, the Speaker, if you were to look at the fiscal as presented to us by our Minister of Finance then, the Speaker, we were told that the deficit for the year 2017 was 4.8%. Simple put, the Speaker, government of Ghana could not raise enough revenue to be able to cater for its expenditure, to the extent that in nominal terms we had to raise an amount of 12.2 billion Ghana cedis as debt to support the budget. This means that, Mr. Speaker, the government inherited a public debt of 120.3 billion. Of that amount, Mr. Speaker, additional 12.2 billion was added to the public debt. Mr. Speaker, if you are to adjust for the exchange rate valuations in our external debt, you will notice that indeed our public debt for the year 2017 moved from 120 billion to 142.5 billion. Mr. Speaker, I wish to use this opportunity to clearly commend the Minister of Finance for the year 2017. Mr. Speaker, this is so because, in fact, you give credit when credit is due. That in the year 2017, the government indeed undertook some fiscal consolidation measures. Mr. Speaker, sadly, Mr. Speaker, we lost our way in the year 2018. We lost our way in the year 2018, and the situation started getting worse. Mr. Speaker, in the year 2018, again, our minister responsible for finance came to us, informed this honorable House that the fiscal deficit was 3.9% of GDP, representing 11.6 billion Ghana cedis. Simply put, Mr. Speaker, we borrowed only 11.6 billion Ghana cedis to increase our public debt at the time of 142.5 billion. Mr. Speaker, I beg to put this on record that is not true. That is not the case, Mr. Speaker. The situation of misreporting actually started back in 2008. Mr. Speaker, now I prove this. Mr. Speaker, I prove this in the sense that, Mr. Speaker, an amount of 9.8 billion Ghana cedis was excluded from the fiscal. Mr. Speaker, this was excluded from the fiscal, Mr. Speaker, and the IMF document here confirmed this. Mr. Speaker, if you have the IMF Article 4 document, August, April 2020, Mr. Speaker, contrary to what our minister responsible for finance informed us, the IMF says that in the year 2018, our deficit was 7%, and certainly not 3.9% of GDP. Mr. Speaker, clearly you could see that the part is increasing and not actually reducing, as we've been told by the budget statement. Mr. Speaker, again, if you are to track the year 2019, you will notice that, as we've been told, that the minister informed this House that the fiscal deficit was 4.8% of GDP. If you are to express it in nominal terms, it means that we spent more than we could raise by an amount of 16.89 billion Ghana cedis. So, Speaker, what this means is that we added 16.8 billion Ghana cedis to our public debt. So, Speaker, once again, this has proven not to be the case. So, Speaker, again, this has been corroborated by the IMF Article 4 document. So, Speaker, my worry is that an amount of 5.1 billion Ghana cedis was excluded from the fiscal. Again, an amount of 3.1 Ghana cedis being a financial sector cost, again, was excluded from the fiscal. So, Speaker, so you could see the misreporting from day one, from 2018 to 2019. So, Speaker, this simply means that in the year 2019, government of Ghana increased our public debt in nominal terms by 25.2 billion Ghana cedis. 25.2 billion, and certainly not 16.8 billion Ghana cedis. That was the financing part. Speaker, as I said, we lost our way back in 2018. The Speaker, this increased our public debt to 217.9 billion Ghana cedis as at the year 2019. The Speaker, this is serious. Yes. The Speaker, my worry is that this August House, we have allowed the ministry responsible for finance to always come and present a financial statement, government policy contrary to what everyone else in the world is using. So, Speaker, we are also part of the problem. Parliament of Ghana is part of the problem because, Mr. Speaker, we fail to check them. We fail to point to them that indeed what they are doing is wrong. Mr. Speaker, that is why the budget office is urgently required. Mr. Speaker, we will need a budget office to be able to check the ministry responsible for finance. Mr. Speaker, this is simple. The debt accumulation and the impressions created that our government is consolidating fiscally isn't the case. Mr. Speaker, if we are to look at the year 2020, the case is even worse. Mr. Speaker, the year 2020, in the budget statement, yes, in the budget statement, so you can all pick the budget statement. Mr. Speaker, the minister responsible for finance appeared before us, informed us that the deficit was 44.9 billion Ghana cedis. That's the financing gap, 44.9 billion Ghana cedis. Meaning that if we are to express it as a percentage of our GDP of 383 billion, then it is 11.7 billion Ghana cedis. So, Speaker, sadly, this deficit excludes the financial sector cost of 8 billion. So, Speaker, if you are to add the financial sector cost of 8 billion, that will move you to 13.8% of GDP. And, Speaker, strangely, and to my surprise, an amount of 6.2 billion Ghana cedis being energy sector payment, again, is missing from the budget statement. 6.2 billion energy sector payment. So, Speaker, so the fiscal deficit isn't 11.7, but, Mr. Speaker, it is in fact 15.3% of GDP. 15.3% of GDP for the year 2020. So, Speaker, again, if you are to look at the budget statement, Appendix 3B, you will notice that the ministry responsible for finance has positioned that in the year 2020,